Hey folks, Metal Ron Haggerty has started a new contest where he wants us to get biblical. And for that contest, he wants 3 group names that are biblical, 3 album titles that are biblical, and 3 songs that are biblical. Let's get started. This first group name would have been excellent for a Christian metal band. It's not, it's a mainstream band. I don't know what the name means to them, but it's Armored Saint. Great name. This particular name makes me think of the scripture where we're asked to put on the armor of God. And yeah, that would have been a great name for a Christian metal band. The next group, not really, I'm not even sure if they consider themselves well, I guess they would, looking at the song titles, maybe they would consider themselves doing some sort of gospel music. But the next group is called The Word. You can't get much more biblical than that. Now, who is The Word and what do they play? Well, The Word is John Medeski. John is best known as 1/3 of the modern jazz trio Medeski, Martin, and Wood. Robert Randolph played in this group, and it was also comprised of another band, the North Mississippi All-Stars, a blues band. So this album kind of is a bluesy, I guess maybe even borderline progressive. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It really is. It's Robert Randolph, of course, plays a lap steel, so that kind of drives the music into a blues. But to describe it solely as that just is kind of inadequate. But that's The Word. The next band, okay, so you can't get much more biblical than The Word. How am I going to top that? How about King James? King James is a Christian metal band that was formed by Rex Carroll, the guitar master from Whitecross. And this is their debut album. And yeah, King James. It's good stuff, but well, anything that Rex Carroll plays on is a must-have. Okay, so now we want to move to albums that are biblical with their title. Okay, so the first one that I want to show is Johnny Cash, The Gospel Road. Kind of hard to make that out. There you go. It's a double album. One of the gospel projects that Johnny did that meant a great deal to him. I just picked this up, so I haven't heard it yet. But it's Johnny Cash. How can you go wrong, huh? Okay, so as you're walking down the gospel road, you might need a gospel cola. Got Atomic Opera, gospel cola. Atomic Opera, I don't hear them talked about much, and that's a shame because this is a fantastic band. Frank Hart is a great musician. I believe they're a Texas-based band. Kind of hard rock, borderline metal. I would say if you like King's X, you might like gospel or atomic opera. Well, hi Jake. All right, so before you get through with your gospel cola, you might have a revelation. And that's what I have here. Revelation. This is kind of an oddball album. This album is an album, it takes the music from Daniel Amos, Shotgun Angel. Daniel Amos is an alternative Christian band. It takes their music and pairs it with preaching, or narration at least, from Pastor Chuck Smith. I wanted to show it just because I love that cover. That's an amazing cover. But Daniel Amos is a great band. This can actually be gotten on, I believe you can get this from either Amazon or Girder Music, relatively cheap. That's 3, but there was one more I wanted to include. I just couldn't leave this album out. It has nothing, it's not a gospel album, it's a jazz album. But after you've had your revelation, you might want to preach a sermon. And this is Jimmy Smith, The Sermon, with the big ugly used CD sticker on the front, because I bought it used. That's the cover. Jimmy Smith. Great album from the father of organ jazz. Some great players on this album, like Lee Morgan, Kenny Burrell, Art Blakey, Tina Brooks. Just fabulous lineup. Jimmy Smith, The Sermon. Okay. So that's my 4 albums, biblical titles. Now we're going to do 3 albums with biblical songs. And the first one's just straight scripture. It is One Bad Pig with Isaiah 6 from the album Smash. This is before the Pig made it big. They were still on Pure Metal Records. They hadn't signed, well, I guess it was with Myrrh Records is where they jumped to for Swine Flu and Ice Cream Sunday and the rest of their catalog. But this is a great. One Bad Pig is they're part metal, part punk, but just a fabulous band. And Smash is the album that I discovered them with. When I was in college, a buddy of mine, he wanted to do something for the Baptist Student Union, and he really didn't have much musical talent. I thought, well, but he had tons of energy and personality, so I said, well, let's do a lip sync. We'll do something radical. So I've actually done a lip sync to Isaiah 6. We called ourselves, we're real clever, instead of One Bad Pig, we called ourselves Two Terrible Swine, and we put on makeup and gaudy clothes and put on a spectacle like the BSU hadn't seen before. We went on to DJ about 4 dances as Two Terrible Swine. Those were good times. I miss those days. All right, second album, second biblical song. From On Fire by Petra, it's Council of the Holy. A song exactly about what it sounds like, getting counsel from Scripture. Great album. This album from Petra kind of, I don't know why, is it the artwork? I'm not sure, but it made me think a little bit of Def Leppard. Okay. And finally, I've shown this album before, but I couldn't resist showing it again, especially in a biblical contest. Deliverance, Weapons of Our Warfare. I mean, and the song Weapons of Our Warfare, talking about the Scripture being the sword of God. You gotta love that cover with the I guess he's actually writing the Scripture. I know I've heard people talk about how they would transcribe the Scriptures, and it was a painstaking procedure, but great cover, great song. And that is my contest entry for Metal Ron. So, I hope you all are having a good evening. And that's it for tonight. So, for me and for Jake, have a good night.